But not everyone was happy about the changes. Some of Darian's older advisors complained that Omegas were getting too much freedom. They need to know their place, one advisor argued during a council meeting. Sarah had been sitting quietly in the corner, as was expected of her. But at those words something inside her snapped. She stood up, her eyes blazing with golden fire. "Their place," she repeated, her voice dangerous. "Let me tell you about places. I was placed on an auction block and sold like livestock. I was placed in chains and treated as property. Those were the places you think Omegas deserve." The advisor paled, realizing he'd made a terrible mistake. "No more," Sarah continued, her power filling the room. "From this day forward, every Omega in this territory has the same rights as any Alpha. They can own property. They can refuse unwanted advances. They can choose their own mates. Anyone who disagrees can leave now." Silence fell over the council. Then, one by one, the advisors bowed their heads in submission. Not to her rank, but to her power and conviction. Darian watched with pride shining in his eyes. His mate was becoming the queen she was meant to be. ####The shadow returns. Just when things seemed to be settling into a new normal, danger returned. A servant found a dead bird on the palace steps with a note tied to its leg. "You took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from you. Starting with your precious Omega." It was signed with Marcus Blackthorn's seal. Darian crumpled the note in his fist. "He won't stop. We should have killed him when we had the chance." "Maybe," Sarah said thoughtfully. "Or maybe we need to do something unexpected." "Like what?" "Like offering him peace. Real peace, not just a truce." Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. What if we invited him here? Showed him what we're building? He might change. One young Silvercrest wolf asked to speak with her privately. His name was Cole and he couldn't have been more than 18 years old. "I'm sorry," Cole said, tears streaming down his face. "Marcus told us you were evil. That you'd enslaved the Alpha King with dark magic. We didn't know he was lying." Sarah felt pity for this boy who'd been manipulated just like she'd been. "What will you do now?" she asked gently. "I don't know. I can't go back to Silvercrest. Marcus will kill me for being captured." Cole looked terrified. "But I have nowhere else to go." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Stay here. We'll create a new pack. One where every wolf is valued, regardless of their rank. Alphas, betas, omegas, everyone equal." The idea was revolutionary. Packs had always been rigidly hierarchical. But Sarah had experienced the cruelty of that system firsthand. She wanted to build something better. When she told Darian her plan, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "You're going to change the world," he said with certainty. "We're going to change it," Sarah corrected. "Together." ####, building something new. Over the following weeks, more wolves from various packs heard about Sarah's offer. Omegas who'd been abused, betas tired of serving cruel alphas, even some alphas who disagreed with the old ways. They all came to the palace seeking sanctuary. Sarah worked with each arrival personally. She used her abilities to heal not just physical wounds, but emotional ones too. Her phoenix light had the power to ease trauma, to burn away pain and replace it with hope. The palace transformed. What had been a formal, cold place of power became a warm community. Wolves from different backgrounds worked together, ate together, and trained together. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, even while blocking an attack meant for her. "I'm fine. There was an assassin." Sarah took her place beside him. "The children are safe." Together they pushed forward. Sarah's renewed energy sent fresh waves of power through their warriors. The golden flames that had been flickering grew bright again, forcing the Silvercrest army back. Marcus roared with frustration. He'd been so sure of victory. His army outnumbered Darian's 3-1. But he hadn't counted on the Phoenix Omega's power. "Fall back." Marcus finally ordered his wolves. "Retreat." But Darian wasn't ready to let them escape. "No mercy for those who threaten innocence," he shouted. His warriors surged forward, capturing dozens of Silvercrest wolves. Marcus himself barely escaped, racing away into the forest with a handful of loyal followers. When the battle finally ended, Sarah collapsed to her knees. Exhaustion hit her like a physical weight. She'd used more power today than ever before, pushing herself far beyond her limits. Darian was beside her instantly, gathering her into his arms. "You did it," he whispered. "We won." Around them warriors cheered. They defended their home against overwhelming odds. And it was all because of the Omega they'd been willing to fight for. ###aftermath. The next few days were spent treating the wounded and repairing damage. Sarah worked tirelessly, using her healing abilities on everyone who needed help. She didn't discriminate. When captured Silvercrest wolves required medical attention, she healed them too. "Why help your enemies?" one of Darian's advisors asked, confused. "Because healing isn't about sides," Sarah explained. "It's about ending suffering wherever I find it." Word of her mercy spread through both armies. The captured Silvercrest wolves, who'd been told she was a weak coward, saw the truth with their own eyes. She was powerful, brave, and kind. The assassin burst into the nursery where 10 frightened pups huddled with their caretakers. He pulled out a wicked-looking knife. "Everyone dies," he hissed. "Not today." Sarah stepped into the room, golden flames swirling around her hands. The assassin attacked with supernatural speed. His blade came within inches of Sarah's throat, but months of training saved her life. She dodged, spun, and sent a blast of pure phoenix fire at her attacker. The assassin screamed as the golden flames engulfed him. But instead of burning his skin, the fire burned away something else. His disguise melted away, revealing his true identity. "Garrett." Sarah gasped. She recognized him. Garrett had been a friend from her old pack, someone she trusted. "Why?" she asked, hurt flooding through her. "Marcus promised me gold and power if I killed you," Garrett admitted, writhing in pain as the phoenix fire exposed all his lies and betrayals. "You were always weak, Sarah. You deserved what happened to you." "Wrong." Sarah's voice was steel. "I survived. I became strong. And I'm going to make sure no one else suffers like I did." She increased the intensity of her flames. Garrett collapsed, unconscious but alive. The caretakers stared at her in awe, clutching the young pups to their chests. "Thank you," one woman breathed. "You saved us." Sarah realized something profound in that moment. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every weak, frightened Omega who'd been told they were worthless. She was becoming the protector she'd always needed. ###turning point. When Sarah returned to the battlefield, the tide was turning. Her absence had been noticed. Darian fought like a demon, cutting through enemies to reach where she'd been standing. Relief flooded his face when he saw her emerge from the palace. "Impossible," Marcus snarled. "She's just an Omega." "She's a phoenix," Darian corrected. "And you made a fatal mistake underestimating her." Darian's warriors charged forward, protected by Sarah's fire. The battle became chaos. Wolves fought in both human and animal form. Steel clashed against claws. The air filled with growls, shouts, and the smell of blood. Sarah maintained her fire wall while also sending waves of healing energy to injured warriors on their side. Her power flowed through the battlefield like golden rivers, closing wounds and strengthening tired fighters. But the Silvercrest army was large. For every enemy wolf that fell, 2 more took their place. Sarah felt her energy draining. Maintaining this much power was exhausting. "Hold on," Darian's mental voice reached her through their bond. "You're doing great." An arrow whistled through the air toward Sarah's head. Before she could react, Darian was there, catching it inches from her face. "Focus on your power," he said. "I'll protect you." They fought back to back, perfectly synchronized. When enemies broke through the firewall, Darian cut them down with his sword. When Darian's warriors fell wounded, Sarah healed them instantly. They were unstoppable together. ###the assassin. Hours into the battle, Sarah noticed movement on the palace walls behind them. A figure dressed in black crept through the shadows, heading toward the children's wing where young pups had been sheltered during the fight. "Assassin!" Sarah shouted, but the chaos of battle drowned out her warning. The assassin disappeared into the palace. Without thinking, Sarah abandoned her position and ran after him. She chased the assassin through empty hallways. Her phoenix fire lit the way, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The assassin was fast, but Sarah was faster. Her training with Darian had taught her to move like a warrior, not a victim. The battle begins. The Silvercrest army appeared on the horizon like a dark storm cloud. Sarah stood on the palace walls beside Darian, watching hundreds of wolves march toward them. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. "Remember your training," Darian said quietly. "Trust your instincts. Trust your power." At the front of the enemy army rode Marcus Blackthorn. He was a huge wolf with gray fur and cruel yellow eyes. Even from a distance, Sarah could feel his rage radiating like heat waves. "Alpha King Darian." Marcus's voice boomed across the field. "I've come for what's mine. Send out the Omega, and we'll leave peacefully." Darian stepped forward to the edge of the wall. His alpha power rolled out, so strong that some of the enemy wolves whimpered and backed away. "Sarah's not yours. She's my mate and your future queen. If you want her, you'll have to go through me." Marcus laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "You'd start a war over a worthless Omega? You're weaker than I thought. And you're dumber than you look if you think I'm worthless." Sarah surprised herself by speaking up. Her voice carried across the battlefield with unexpected strength. "I'm a Phoenix Omega. I have more power in my little finger than you have in your entire pack." Shocked silence fell over both armies. Nobody expected the Omega to speak, much less challenge an Alpha directly. Marcus's face twisted with anger. "Kill them all," he roared. The Silvercrest army charged. ##### fire and fury. Sarah closed her eyes and reached for her power. The golden light inside her blazed to life, stronger than ever before. She felt Darian's presence beside her, steady and sure. Their mate bond pulsed with shared strength. "Now," Darian commanded. Sarah opened her eyes and raised her hands. Golden flames erupted from her palms, forming a massive wall of fire that stretched across the entire battlefield. The charging wolves skidded to a halt, unable to cross the barrier. "You've become so strong." Darian wrapped his arms around her from behind. "The broken Omega I bought at that auction is gone. In her place stands a Phoenix warrior." Sarah leaned back against his chest, drawing comfort from his warmth. "You saw her potential when no one else did. You believed in me. That's what made the difference." They stood together in silence, holding each other as the night deepened. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together. As the first light of dawn touched the sky, a messenger burst onto the balcony. "Your Majesty, the Silvercrest army has been spotted. They'll be here within the hour." The battle for Sarah's freedom was about to begin. "Me," she said quietly. "You're not asking me to. I'm choosing to." He turned to face her. "Don't you understand? You're not just my mate. You represent every Omega who's been abused, sold, and treated as less than wolves. If I back down now, I'm telling every Alpha in the North that they can continue their cruelty. That ends today." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming love for this man who saw her worth when no one else did. "Then teach me to fight," she said firmly. "I won't hide while others battle for my freedom. Let me stand beside you." Darian pulled her into his arms. "Together then. As it should be." #### preparing for battle. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Warriors from allied packs arrived to support the Alpha King. Weapons were sharpened. Battle strategies were planned. The palace that had been so peaceful transformed into a military fortress. Sarah trained harder than ever. Darian sparred with her personally, teaching her to use her Phoenix abilities in combat. She learned to create walls of golden fire that could block attacks. Her healing abilities grew stronger, able to cure serious injuries in minutes. But more importantly, Sarah discovered her power could strengthen others. When she stood among Darian's warriors and let her energy flow, they became faster, stronger, more alert. Her presence boosted the entire army. "You're the secret weapon," Darian told her with pride. "Marcus has numbers, but we have you." The night before the battle, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood on her balcony, watching the moon rise over the palace. Tomorrow everything would change. People might die. She might die. Darian appeared beside her, silent as always. "Having second thoughts?" No, Sarah said honestly. I'm scared, but I'm not running. This is my fight too. He kissed her gently at first, then deeper. Sarah felt the mate bond snap into place like a golden thread connecting their souls. They were meant to be together. Fate had brought them to each other despite all the pain and darkness. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. I've known since the moment I saw you, Darian admitted. You're my true mate. I felt it too, Sarah confessed. I just didn't believe I deserved you. You deserve everything. Darian pulled her close. And I'll spend my life proving that to you. ####. The threat arrives. Their happiness was short-lived. 3 days later, a messenger arrived at the palace gates. He carried a formal challenge from Marcus Blackthorn, Alpha of the Silvercrest Pack. The message was clear. Marcus demanded Sarah's return. If Darian refused, it would mean war between the packs. Blood would be spilled. Lives would be lost. The Royal Council gathered to discuss options. We should avoid war, one advisor said. Give them the Omega and maintain peace. Sarah sat in the corner, feeling like she was back on the auction block. Being discussed like an object instead of a person. Absolutely not. Darian's voice was ice. Sarah is my mate. She's under my protection. Anyone who tries to take her will face me directly. Your Majesty, be reasonable, another advisor pleaded. Marcus Blackthorn has a large army. Many will die in this conflict. Then Marcus can withdraw his challenge. Darian stood, his alpha power filling the room. I will not negotiate about my mate's freedom. Prepare our defenses. If they want war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. After the council dispersed, Sarah found Darian on the balcony overlooking the training grounds. You shouldn't risk your kingdom for. Sarah trained until her muscles screamed and her lungs burned. She learned to use daggers to move silently, to sense danger before it arrived. The golden light that had been soft and gentle learned to burn hot enough to create shields of pure energy. During one session, Darian attacked her with real force. Sarah blocked his strike and felt power surge through her. Golden flames erupted from her hands, not to burn him, but to push him back. Darian stumbled, surprised. Excellent, he said, pride clear in his voice. You're learning to use your fire offensively. But the training took a toll. Sarah collapsed into bed each night, exhausted. Helena brought her special teas to help her recover. The other servants whispered about how the Alpha King was preparing for something big. One evening, as Sarah soaked her sore muscles in a hot bath, she realized something. She wasn't the same broken Omega who arrived at the palace months ago. She was becoming strong, confident, powerful, and she was ready to face whatever came next. ####. Bonds forming. Despite the intense training, Sarah and Darian grew closer. Late at night, after everyone else slept, they met in the library to talk. Darian opened up about his past, about the mother he lost, about the loneliness of being the Alpha King. Everyone fears me, he said one night. They obey because they have to, not because they want to. I've been alone for so long. Sarah understood that feeling. I thought I'd always be alone too. After my pack fell, I had nothing. No family, no friends, no future. You have all of that now. Darian looked at her with such intensity that her breath caught. You have a place here. With me. The air between them crackled with unspoken feelings. Sarah knew she should leave, should keep distance between them. But she couldn't move. Darian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. His hand cupped her cheek. Tell me to stop, he whispered. No, Sarah breathed. It was a letter. The handwriting was elegant, but the words were threatening. Your Majesty, I know what you're hiding in your palace. A Phoenix Omega is a valuable prize. Many would pay well for such information. Return what you stole from the Silvercrest pack, or I will tell everyone what you have. You have 1 month. The letter wasn't signed. Sarah's hands trembled. Someone knew she was here. Someone was threatening Darian because of her. She had to tell him. She found him in his office, working late as always. We need to talk, she said, showing him the letter. Darian read it, his expression darkening. Where did you find this? In the library. It fell from a book. Sarah's voice shook. Who sent it? What did they mean about stealing from Silvercrest Pack? Darian set the letter down carefully. I didn't steal you. I paid 20,000 gold. But legally Marcus Blackthorne could claim I interfered with his property sale. So send me back. The words hurt to say, but Sarah meant them. I won't let you face trouble because of me. No. Darian stood, his eyes blazing with amber fire. You're not property. You're not going back to people who treated you like garbage. Then what do? We prepare for war. Darian's jaw set in determination. Because Marcus Blackthorne won't stop with threats. He'll come for you. And when he does, we'll be ready. ####. The training intensifies. The next morning everything changed. Darian's gentle teaching methods were replaced with intense combat training. He brought in weapons masters, strategy experts, and even a witch who specialized in defensive magic. Your healing abilities are important, Darian explained during a brutal sparring session. But you need to know how to fight. Phoenix Omegas aren't just healers. They're warriors. One afternoon 2 weeks after she arrived, something changed. They were practicing meditation when Sarah felt heat building in her chest. It spread through her body like liquid sunlight. Open your eyes, Darian said quietly. Sarah looked down and gasped. Her hands were glowing with a soft golden light. It didn't hurt. It felt natural, like this light had always been part of her, just waiting to emerge. Good, Darian smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen from him. It transformed his serious face, making him look younger and less burdened. That's your healing light. With practice, you'll learn to direct it. Over the following weeks, Sarah discovered abilities she never dreamed possible. She could sense emotions in others. She could ease pain with her touch. Once, when a servant cut his hand badly in the kitchen, Sarah held the wound and watched it close completely. But the most surprising discovery was her connection with Darian. During training, she could feel his presence in her mind like a warm flame. Sometimes she knew what he was thinking before he spoke. First it scared her. Then it became comforting. They spent more time together. Darian taught her to read and write properly. He showed her maps of the territories and explained politics. In the evenings, they walked through the gardens and talked about everything from history to dreams for the future. Sarah realized she was falling for him. Not because he was the Alpha King, but because he saw her as a person. He treated her with respect. He believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. But she tried to hide her feelings. He had saved her and trained her. She owed him everything. The last thing she wanted was to burden him with unwanted affection from a former slave. #### The warning. One night Sarah couldn't sleep. She went to the library hoping to find a book to read. As she reached for one on the high shelf, a piece of paper fell out. Darian turned to face her. In the morning light, she could see he looked tired. Do you know what you are? He asked. An Omega. The weakest rank. No. He walked closer. You're a Phoenix Omega. The rarest bloodline in existence. I could sense it the moment I saw you. Sarah shook her head. That's impossible. Phoenix Omegas are just legends. They're real. My mother was one. Darian's expression softened slightly. Phoenix Omegas have incredible power. They can heal fatal wounds. They can strengthen their pack with just their presence. And in rare cases, they can create fire with their will. I can't do any of those things, Sarah protested. I'm nobody special. Because you were never taught. Your power was suppressed by fear and abuse. Darian pulled a book from his desk. I brought you here to train you. To help you become what you were meant to be. Sarah stared at him in disbelief. Why would you help me? For the first time she saw emotion flicker in his eyes. Pain old and deep. Because nobody helped my mother when she needed it. She died powerless and broken. I won't let that happen to another Phoenix Omega. #### Hidden abilities. The training began the next morning. Darian took Sarah to a private courtyard surrounded by high walls. We'll start simple, he said. Close your eyes and focus on your inner wolf. Sarah tried, but all she felt was emptiness. Years of being told she was worthless had built walls around her power. I can't, she said, frustrated. Yes, you can. Darian's voice was firm but not unkind. Stop thinking about what others said you were. Think about who you want to become. They trained for hours every day. First, nothing happened. Sarah wanted to give up. But Darian never lost patience. He pushed her, challenged her, but never made her feel stupid or weak. A kind-faced woman with silver hair greeted them at the entrance. "Welcome, child," she said to Sarah. "I am Helena, the head housekeeper. Come, you must be exhausted." Helena led Sarah through marble hallways to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire old house. A bathtub sat in the corner, already filled with hot water. Clean clothes lay on the bed. "Rest tonight," Helena said. "Tomorrow your new life begins." After the woman left, Sarah stood in the middle of the room, confused and scared. What kind of game was this? Why treat a purchased slave with such kindness? It had to be a trap. But the hot bath was too tempting. Sarah hadn't been truly clean in months. She sank into the water and scrubbed away layers of dirt and shame. For the first time since her pack fell, she felt almost human again. ##### the first meeting. Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. She was in the Alpha King's palace, owned by the most powerful wolf in the north. A knock on the door made her jump. Helena entered carrying a breakfast tray. "Good morning, dear. Eat up. His Majesty wishes to see you in an hour." The food was delicious, but Sarah could barely taste it. Her stomach twisted with anxiety. What would the Alpha King do to her? She'd heard terrible stories about what happened to Omegas in powerful packs. When the hour passed, guards came to escort her. They walked through the palace until they reached a large office. Books lined the walls from floor to ceiling. A desk sat by the window overlooking the gardens. Darian stood by the window, his back to her. "Leave us," he told the guards. The door closed with a soft click. Sarah was alone with the Alpha King. Her wolf instincts screamed at her to submit, to show her throat, to acknowledge his dominance. But something in her refused. She'd been treated like garbage for too long. "Why am I here?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Alpha King Darian," the auctioneer whispered, bowing deeply. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your presence." Sarah's heart stopped. The Alpha King ruled over all the packs in the Northern Territories. He was known as the most powerful wolf alive. Some said he was cruel and ruthless. Others claimed he was fair but cold. Nobody knew much about him because he rarely left his palace. Why would someone like him buy a worthless Omega? "I'll take her now," Darian said. His voice was calm but left no room for argument. The chains were removed from Sarah's wrists. Her legs shook as she stepped down from the platform. 2 guards in royal uniforms appeared beside her. They didn't grab her roughly like she expected. Instead, they guided her gently toward a beautiful black carriage. "Wait," Sarah found her voice. "Why did you buy me?" Darian turned to look at her. His amber eyes studied her face for a long moment. "Because you're worth more than they know," he said simply. Then he climbed into the carriage. Sarah had no choice but to follow. #### journey to the unknown. The carriage ride took 3 days. Sarah expected to be locked in chains again or worse. But instead, she was given her own small room in the carriage with a soft bed and warm blankets. 3 times a day, servants brought her real food. Not the scraps she'd been eating for months. Nobody explained what was happening. The guards were polite but quiet. Darian rode in a separate carriage ahead of hers. Sarah spent the time looking out the window, watching the landscape change from dry plains to green forests. On the 3rd evening, they arrived at the palace. Sarah had never seen anything so beautiful. White stone towers reached toward the sky. Gardens full of flowers surrounded the buildings. Fountains sparkled in the moonlight. The auction block. The iron chains felt cold against Sarah's wrists. She stood on a wooden platform in the center of the marketplace, surrounded by hundreds of wolves who came to watch the auction. Her bare feet ached from standing for hours. The afternoon sun burned her skin, but she refused to show weakness. "Next item," the auctioneer shouted. His voice echoed across the crowd. A rare Omega female. Young, healthy, and obedient. Perfect for labor or breeding. Sarah's cheeks burned with shame. Once, she had been a respected member of the Moonshadow Pack. She had friends, family, and dreams of finding her true mate. But everything changed 6 months ago when her pack was destroyed by the Silvercrest wolves. They killed her parents and captured everyone else. The Silvercrest Alpha, Marcus Blackthorne, decided Sarah was worthless. "She's too weak to be a warrior," he said. "Too plain to be a trophy. Sell her and get whatever gold you can." Now here she stood, being sold like cattle. The bidding started low. Sarah kept her eyes down, trying not to cry. She wouldn't give these people the satisfaction of seeing her break. 500 gold, someone called out. 600, another voice answered. The numbers climbed slowly. Sarah felt sick to her stomach. Whoever bought her could do anything they wanted. Omegas had no rights in most packs. She would become property, nothing more. Hashtag the mysterious buyer. Suddenly, a deep voice cut through the crowd like thunder. 20,000 gold. The entire marketplace went silent. That was more money than most wolves saw in their lifetime. Sarah finally looked up, trying to see who spoke. A path opened in the crowd. A tall man walked forward with confident steps. He wore black clothes that looked expensive. His dark hair was pulled back, showing a strong face with sharp cheekbones. But what caught Sarah's attention were his eyes. They glowed with an amber light that seemed to see right through her.